The sea was always loudest at midnight. Alara Hastings had learned that much during her first sleepless nights in Wren's Hollow. The house creaked like an old ship, shifting under the pressure of wind and time. The salt from the sea air clung to the window panes, leaving faint, chalky trails where the mist had dried. She found herself staring out of that attic window more often than she wrote, which was ironic, given that she'd come here to finish a novel. Well, half true that she'd come here to escape, mostly. The novel was the excuse. Alara curled her fingers around the steaming mug of tea she hadn't touched, the liquid already cooling. Outside, the Atlantic moaned against the rocks like something wounded. Her new home, an aging saltbox cottage nestled on the cliffs above Wren's Cove, had charm in the way that haunted houses did. It was too quiet. The kind of quiet that amplified your thoughts until they pressed against the backs of your eyes, and still, she chose this place on purpose. After everything in New York, the firestorm of interviews, the betrayal, the headlines, the lawsuit, she needed something that didn't remind her of her former life. No publishers calling. No literary agents chasing the next advance. No ghosts from her past, just wind. Just water. Just distance. That she'd rented the cottage site unseen from a listing online, choosing it mostly for the name of the street, Seabird Lane. Something about it sounded like freedom. Like it belonged to a place where the past couldn't find her. She was wrong, of course. The past always finds you. It wears different masks, sometimes guilt, sometimes grief, but it never forgets. Still, Wren's Hollow didn't ask questions. That was what she liked about it. People smiled without expectation. They offered directions without needing to know her story. In New York, the moment someone recognized her name, she became the woman who wrote The Deepest Blue, the heartbreak memoir that had shattered hearts and lit up book clubs across the country. The woman who'd exposed a very private pain to a very public world. Here, she was just the woman renting Margaret's old place. There was comfort in that anonymity, and yet, every morning at precisely 5:40 a.m., the same man walked past the cottage. She first noticed him on the second day. A tall figure in a gray coat with the hood up, moving with the steady gait of someone who belonged here. A golden retriever trotted beside him, tail high, ears alert. The dog always paused near the hedge, sniffed something invisible, then ran to catch up. The man never looked toward the house, except once on that morning, a few days ago. She'd been sipping her coffee by the attic window when he suddenly turned and looked straight up. For a heartbeat, their eyes met. She couldn't make out the color of his, but she felt them, steady and unreadable. That she ducked behind the curtain like a teenager caught spying. Now, she found herself waking early just to watch. Not out of curiosity exactly. More like routine. Something about the predictability of his walk was comforting. Like the turning of a page. She didn't know his name, she didn't plan to find out. That night, like most others, Alara wandered through the house long after midnight. Sleep rarely came easily anymore. The tea had cooled. The wind howled a little louder, and then, the knock came. It was soft at first. 3 short raps. Alara froze. No one knocked at this hour. No one came up this lane at all, especially not after dark. She waited, mug held still in midair. Another knock. Then a bark. Sharp and insistent. The dog. Alara moved to the door and cracked it open. There he was, gray coat, damp with mist. Hood back. Hair damp and tousled from the wind. In the low porch light, she could see his face clearly for the first time, angular, with strong features and a jawline shadowed by stubble. His eyes were green. Not bright emerald green, but the murky, forest-toned kind you see deep in mossy woods. He looked concerned. Sorry, he said, his voice low. Your porch light's out. Thought I saw someone limping down the bluff path. Alara blinked. What? His brows furrowed. It wasn't you. She shook her head slowly. I haven't left the house all night. The dog, a retriever, with one floppy ear, nudged past his leg and padded up to her, tail wagging cautiously. She reached down to pet it without thinking, grateful for the distraction. He hesitated. Could have been a deer. Or my imagination. Alara found her voice. Thanks for checking, though. He gave a tight nod. You just moved in, right? She stiffened.
Yeah,
About a week ago. You're in Margaret's old place. I gathered, she said. Was she? Sweet lady. Kept bees. Moved to Florida after her husband passed. Place sat empty a while. Oh. A pause. The wind howled behind them. I'm Aiden, he said finally. I live down by the wharf. Alara. I know. She tilted her head. You do? Small town, he said simply, then turned. Well. Stay safe. He started back down the path, dog at his heels. Alara watched them disappear into the fog, her pulse still ticking faster than normal. It wasn't fear. Not really, just something else. Something she hadn't felt in a long time. Recognition. The next morning, the fog hadn't lifted. It clung to the cliffs like a second skin, soaking into everything. Alara pulled on her coat and made her way down to the beach. The wind had calmed, and the waves rolled in slow, steady breaths she needed to walk. The words weren't coming. They hadn't come in days. She'd opened her laptop that morning, stared at the blinking cursor on a blank page, and thought, what's the point? Everyone expected another bestseller. Another intimate, aching portrayal of loss and resilience. But she had nothing left to give them. She didn't want to open that door again, to dig up Luca's memory like it was a coin she could spend over and over. She wandered closer to the tide line, where shells crunched under her boots. The wind tugged at her scarf. She closed her eyes, letting the cold sting her cheeks. Careful, a voice called behind her. The bluff path's muddy this time of year. She turned. Aiden stood a few feet away, one hand on the dog's collar. I wasn't going up there, she said. He shrugged. Most people who don't know the tide schedule end up stranded. I checked. His lips twitched. Not quite a smile, but close. You're out early, she added. I always am. Scout, she'd learned the dog's name from a passing comment, pulled away to sniff the sand. Does she always listen this well? Alara asked. No. She's got selective hearing. That earned a real smile from her, small and surprised. She hadn't smiled like that in months. They stood there in silence for a moment, both watching the dog chase a gull into the water. Do you work on the water? She asked finally.
yeah,
Fisherman. Part-time harbor hand. Fix boats when I can. Sounds quiet. That's the goal. Alara nodded. I get that. Another pause. The waves filled the space between them. Aiden glanced at her, studying. You're not just here for the view. It wasn't a question. But she answered anyway. No. I'm not. He didn't press. Instead, he said, if you're looking to actually write anything, stay away from Reeves Cafe between noon and 2. That's when the town's old gossip brigade meets. I'll keep that in mind. He gave her another long look, then turned and started walking away. This time, she didn't watch him go. Later that afternoon, she found something strange near the back of the attic. While sorting through old boxes the landlord left behind, Alara came across a locked tin trunk. It was tucked beneath a moth-eaten quilt, half buried under yellowed newspapers. Something about it made her pause. It wasn't hers. But it didn't feel like something meant to be discarded either. The lock was rusted shut, but the latch popped with enough force. Inside, wrapped in plastic, was a leather-bound journal that was old. The pages curled at the edges, stained with salt and age. The name inside the cover was barely legible, but she could make out a first name, Maeve. She turned the first page and began to read. August 13th. The wind has teeth today. It chewed through the netting on the dock again. Aiden's father says. The storms are getting worse, but I think it's something else. Something pulling at the tide like a secret trying to surface. Alara stopped. The name Aiden, her heart skipped. She read on. The entries were poetic, filled with coastal imagery, storm metaphors, and fragments of emotion woven into the routine of sea life. They were beautiful. Sad. Private. A woman's heart. Opened on every page, she flipped to the end, scanning the dates. The last entry was dated nearly 25 years ago, then it stopped. Abruptly, Alara closed the journal with trembling fingers. She knew instinctively, this wasn't just a diary at IT. Was a story. One someone had tried to forget.